Welcome back to Mission of the Chosen. Today's message will reveal why you're still standing when everything was designed to break you, and why unseen forces keep turning darkness into your protection. You've probably noticed by now life has a way of exposing people, not the strangers at a distance, but the ones who sit closest to you, smiling at your table, laughing in your circle. The truth is, knives don't come from those you expect. They come from the hands you once held without hesitation. And when they finally cut, the pain doesn't just pierce your body, it shreds the fabric of your trust. That's betrayal, and it always hits harder than an enemy in plain sight. Imagine this. You're walking shoulder to shoulder with someone you trust. No warning, no sign. Then suddenly, the smile vanishes, and in the next moment you realize they've been holding the blade all along. That confusion, that disorientation, is what makes betrayal the sharpest wound. Because when enemies attack, you brace for it, but when friends betray, your soul feels blindsided. And yet, chosen one, there's something they never calculated. The betrayal you survived was not the end of you, it was the rebirth of you. They thought their masks were flawless, that their quiet laughter, their false affection, their loyal words were enough to fool you. But betrayal always leaks through the cracks, in the hesitation of their eyes, in the laughter that feels empty, in the conversations that don't reach your soul. And you felt it, didn't you? That unease in your spirit, that sudden chill when you stood near them, the sleepless nights you couldn't explain. It wasn't paranoia, it was protection. A divine alarm going off inside you, alerting you to the knife behind the handshake. That's the gift you carry. Intuition, awareness, a radar that works even when your mind hasn't caught up yet. And here's the part that hurts most. Betrayal is brutal not because of the act, but because of who did it. These weren't just people in the crowd. These were the ones you let close enough to see your tears, close enough to hear your dreams, close enough to hold your trust, and they weaponized that closeness against you. Every detail they collected about your life, every word you once spoke in confidence, they stored like ammunition, not to protect you, to strike you, to calculate the exact moment when you'd be most vulnerable. But here's the irony, they underestimated the law of balance. Envy was the real reason behind their betrayal. Think about it. Nobody wastes energy sabotaging what doesn't intimidate them. If you were ordinary, they would have ignored you. If you were forgettable, they wouldn't have cared. But you weren't. You carried a light they couldn't match, a resilience they couldn't copy, and a protection they couldn't explain. So, they tried to destroy what they couldn't replicate. That's why betrayal is always rooted in envy. And science, even outside spirituality, confirms this. Studies show betrayal trauma creates the same neural chaos as physical pain. Your body reacts as if struck, your trust collapses. Your survival instincts scream, and yet look at you, still standing, still walking, still unbroken. That's proof enough. Now picture this. Betrayal is like setting a fire in a house while you're still inside. They thought they were burning you down, but in reality, they suffocated themselves in the smoke, trapped by their own flames. That's why today, they're restless, their sleep is broken, their conscience is scarred. Because betrayal doesn't end with a clean escape, it follows the betrayer like a shadow. They can laugh, they can pretend, but in the silence of night, they hear your voice, they see your face. They feel the weight of what they did pressing like chains on their soul. They thought you would collapse under the knife. Instead, you sharpened into steel. This is the unspoken truth. Betrayal doesn't break the chosen. It breaks the betrayer. And deep down, they know it. That's why they're asking themselves questions they can't answer. Why are you still standing? Why do you keep rising? Why didn't the knife finish you? Those questions haunt them because your survival is proof of their failure. You didn't just endure their betrayal, you transformed it into strength. You became sharper, wiser, and harder to reach. And now, every attempt to explain your survival collapses into silence. So, here's what you must remember. Betrayal was never the end of your story. It was the turning point. Their envy exposed itself. Their masks slipped. And the universe used their very act of treachery to set you apart from the rest. And now, they live with the curse of knowing they failed. They couldn't stop you, they couldn't end you, they couldn't erase you. All they did was confirm that you are untouchable. The shield you cannot see is the one that terrifies your enemies the most. Chosen One, that's exactly what's happening right now. They are staring at you in disbelief, whispering questions they can't silence. How are they untouchable? Why do our attacks never land? What is this strange power that surrounds them? Their curiosity has turned into sleepless nights, pacing the floor like prisoners inside their own fear. They once thought you would be easy to break. But the more they pressed, the more they realized there's something invisible keeping you alive, standing tall, and even rising higher. Now imagine this for a moment. Chosen One. Your enemies thought they had the perfect plan. Like a group of hunters circling a single target, they aimed every arrow at you. But when they fired, instead of piercing you, those arrows spun midair and struck back at them with twice the force. That's why today the very same people who laughed at you are now covering their wounds, holding their heads in confusion and trembling because they cannot explain what they just witnessed. And here's a fact that no one can deny. When stress, envy, and hatred eat away at someone's body, it shows up in real life. Science has proven that harboring rage and jealousy increases cortisol levels, weakens the immune system, and even accelerates disease. So, when your enemies kept pouring poison into their hearts against you, the universe simply made sure they drank from their own cup. That's why they are breaking down while you're still moving forward stronger than ever. And thank you, Chosen One, for being here right now. Don't forget to return this energy by pressing the like and subscribe, because spreading this message is not just support, it's part of the mission. You're carrying light. And when you help share it, you're proving that you're part of a force bigger than yourself. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for standing as one of the chosen. But let's come back to the truth at hand. People are shocked by the way you're being protected. They've tried everything from rumors and sabotage to energy meant to break your spirit, but nothing sticks. Every attempt collapses like a sandcastle swept away by the tide. The more they attack, the more it becomes clear that something unseen is surrounding you, redirecting their malice back onto them. They're left asking the same burning questions. What shields this person? Why do they keep rising when logic says they should have fallen and chosen one? This is the beauty of universal law. The universe doesn't play favorites, but it does respond to balance. When someone tries to disrupt that balance by tearing you down unfairly, it flips the script. What they send out returns multiplied. That's why your enemy's plans backfire like grenades exploding in their own hands. They can't explain why accidents suddenly follow them, why finances slip through their fingers, or why their relationships fall apart at the seams. They only know it began the moment they came against you. See, the protection over your life isn't just a shield, it's a mirror. Whatever energy touches you is reflected right back to the sender. That's why they feel haunted. They see your face when they close their eyes. They hear your name in rooms they don't want it spoken, and they replay their attacks, wondering why everything they tried to destroy only left them more destroyed. It's eating at them because they can't find an answer. And humans hate what they can't explain. Chosen One, your very survival is a mystery to them. You shouldn't have made it this far by their calculation. But here you are, and the universe is making sure you're seen, not hidden. That's why they're gossiping. That's why they're inquiring. That's why they're restless. They want to know what force is standing behind you. And the truth is, it isn't about what's behind you. It's about what's within you. The resilience, the endurance, and the unshakable spirit you carry is what they can't match, no matter how many people they gather against you. And so their questions multiply. Who is this person really? Why does everything fail when we move against them? What is protecting them? They'll keep asking, they'll keep doubting, they'll keep fearing, but the answers will never come because the mystery is part of your protection. They don't deserve to know. They'll only witness from a distance how every attempt to trap you becomes the trap that swallows them instead. Chosen One, this is why people are shocked by your protection. And this is why you must keep walking as you are. The universe has made you untouchable to those who wish you harm. And the more they try, the more questions they'll have with fewer answers to comfort them. Chosen One, before we go deeper, I want you to pause for a moment and feel this energy. People are shocked by the protection around you, and the questions they whisper in the dark are proof that you are walking a rare path. If you've ever felt that force covering you when you should have been broken, then this message is for you. So, drop a comment below with the number 777 to seal your place in this conversation. And if you feel called, bless this mission with your support. Every little act, whether it's a like, a share, or a gift, keeps this light moving through the world, fueling a message that enemies wish would stay hidden. Your energy is the reason these truths can reach more souls like you. And trust me, if you are truly chosen, you'll feel the pull to stay with me until the end. Because what's coming will confirm why they are restless, why they are panicking, and why the universe will keep shielding you no matter what. So take a breath, chosen one. Let's dive into it step by step and let the truth unfold before your very eyes. Tonight's lesson unpacks why coordinated whispers never defeat protected purpose, how group envy manufactures false power, and the precise moment every conspiracy reverses direction and collapses under the weight of its own lies. You've seen it before. One jealous heart isn't brave enough to stand alone, so it hunts for echoes. Envy wants a choir, someone to nod, someone to carry a rumor, someone to pretend that numbers equal truth. That's how conspiracies are born, not out of strategy, but out of insecurity looking for company. They didn't meet because they were powerful. They met because without each other, they felt small. Picture the dim room, curtains drawn, coffee gone cold, your name passed across the table like contraband. One agrees to watch your moves. Another offers proof you're not who you say you are. Another swears they can cut off your resources. They assign roles like generals, but their battlefield is imagination, and their courage is borrowed. They mistake coordination for authority. They confuse synchronized fear with real strength. Here's the part they never understood. When you're genuinely protected, opposition can scale to the ceiling and still fall like dust. Universal law doesn't panic at head count. 10 in a circle equals 0 in a court that only accepts truth. You don't need to bark back. You don't even need to attend the trial. The evidence is collecting itself while they speak. Because every whisper leaves a fingerprint. If betrayal is a single blade, conspiracy is a bundle of sticks louder to break, easier to burn. The moment they gathered, a clock started. You didn't hear it, but they will. Every snicker stamped a time. Every message left a trail. Every bold promise hardened into liability. They thought secrecy made them invisible. In fact, secrecy sealed their file. And let's be honest, if they could have faced you openly, they would have. But envy avoids sunlight. That's why they needed hallways, back rooms, and, for your ears only, messages. Not because the plan was brilliant, because the plan couldn't survive oxygen. If a plot falls apart when spoken plainly, it's already a corpse. The universe does not shield what is dishonest. It documents it. Let's slow this down and name the pattern so you never mistake it again. Phase 1. Recruitment. The first whisperer tests the waters. Have you noticed? They're looking for appetite, not facts. Whoever bites first becomes the second mouth. When appetite outgrows evidence, a circle forms. Phase 2. Script writing. They retrofit a story. What doesn't fit gets shaved off. What contradicts is ignored. Their version must feel inevitable, even if it's stitched from hunches. In their heads, they're historians. In reality, they're playwrights. Phase 3. Assignment. One spreads doubt. One monitors you. One makes calls. One drafts fake receipts. Nobody wants to be accountable, so everyone becomes partially responsible. Diffused blame is conspiracy's favorite perfume. Phase 4. Escalation. Because gossip alone isn't giving them the high anymore. They reach for heavier tools, false reports, strategic omissions, anonymous tips. The lie puts on a badge and pretends it's law. Phase 5. Unraveling. A text leaks. A timeline disagrees with itself. Two stories collide. The same mouth that swore loyalty to the circle now leaks to save face. The clock you never set rings loud enough for everyone to hear. That's the pattern. It's not mystical, it's mechanical. And once you learn the gears, you stop giving the machine your fear. I know what you might ask. Why didn't the universe stop them at phase 1? Because exposure is mercy. If that circle had stayed hidden, you would have kept feeding heart and time into hands that could not be trusted. Let them gather, let them speak, let them prove themselves to you without you having to lift a finger. Their meetings were not your downfall, they were your deliverance. The masks didn't slip, they fell. And while they were writing fiction, your life kept producing receipts, consistency, results, alignment. Darkness can impersonate for a season, it cannot perform sustainably. That's why conspiracies tire out, while integrity gets stronger with repetition. Here's a picture you won't forget. Imagine a web, multiple spiders, frantic stretching silk, tightening lines, rehearsing victory. From their angle, escape looks impossible. But then a gust, call it truth, timing, or testimony, blows through the room. The web isn't engineered, it's fragile. Threads break in sequence. What they spun for months falls in seconds. The spiders weren't builders, they were borrowers, and borrowed strength returns to its owner. What they counted as power was only momentum. A circle can amplify emotion, it can't manufacture destiny. There's a difference. Let's talk about the why me that lingers. Why would people who barely know you join hands against you? Because emptiness seeks meaning, and nothing fills a starving ego faster than a shared opponent. You became the pretext that gave their boredom a mission. But borrowed missions don't last. The moment consequences arrive, they scatter. The same mouths that swore they had proof suddenly develop amnesia. The same hands that pushed the plan swear they were just listening. Notice, conspiracy is brave in the dark and allergic to accountability. And consequences do arrive. Not always with sirens, sometimes with subtraction, opportunities drying up, alliances fading, inexplicable missteps, the kind of bad luck that looks patterned if you stand back far enough. Balance isn't loud, it's precise. There's a quiet miracle you may have missed. You didn't have to answer every accusation. You didn't have to disprove every version. A protected life edits rumors without your mouth. The right people saw what they needed to see: your steadiness, your fruit, your refusal to play tug of war with shadows. Reputation built on reality will outlive speculation built on emotion, every time. Refuse the bait. Conspiracies need your reaction like a fire needs oxygen. Deny them both. Instead, do this. Keep your schedule, keep your practice, keep your word. Keep showing up where results are measured, not where opinions are traded. The rooms that matter are allergic to drama and addicted to delivery. That's where you belong. Now, a word on scale. They bet that if enough voices harmonized against you, the universe would be tricked into thinking the song was true. But cosmic arithmetic doesn't bend that way. 9 lies don't add up to 1 truth. All they did was multiply their exposure. When judgment comes, crowds don't dilute it, they document it. Numbers can create noise. They cannot create legitimacy. That's why, after the noise, the pattern emerges. Jobs slipping, projects stalling, health wobbling, relationships fraying. Not because you wished it, but because systems correct. You weren't avenged by rage, you were vindicated by order. And here's the part that belongs to your future. Their circle unintentionally clarified your circle. You learned who watches to cheer and who watches to compare, who asks questions to understand and who asks questions to inventory your weaknesses. You learned that access is currency and that familiar isn't the same as safe. From now on, you'll do something wiser. Respond to fruit, not volume, alignment, not applause. You'll measure people by how they handle your no, not how loudly they celebrate your yes. Conspiracy tried to shrink you. It trained you instead. In a strange way, you owe the circle a thank you they'll never hear. By gathering against you, they gathered you to yourself. You became focused. You chose clarity over crowd, peace over performance, assignment over approval. Your path got narrower and brighter at the same time. Remember this sentence and keep it in your pocket. When the plan depends on me shrinking to fit their narrative, the plan is already broken. You don't shrink, you scale. Not by shouting, but by stewarding. Not by clapping back, but by climbing. Let your altitude be your answer. And as for the echo chamber they built, it will do what echo chambers always do: collapse inward. A circle formed by fear eventually feeds on its members. When there's no more you to accuse, they'll turn on each other to keep the feeling alive. The spotlight they aimed at you will swing around and blind them. That's not a curse, that's physics. If you're hearing this and your chest feels lighter, that's awareness settling into your bones. You're not paranoid, you're protected, you're not difficult, you're different. And different invites study, some of it kind, some of it predatory. Either way, you'll be fine, because the same law that recorded their whispers already scheduled your vindication. Walk past the room where they planned. Keep moving. Let time finish what truth started. The conspiracy they thought would cage you has only unmasked them. Each whisper became a chain, each scheme a nail in their own coffin. And now, while their alliances crumble and their voices betray them, you remain untouchable, moving with a strength they cannot calculate. Their restless questions echo through the night. Why does nothing work? Why do we collapse when they rise? That confusion is their prison, and your very survival is the key that locks the door behind them. Remember this truth: darkness cannot unite without first destroying itself. And that's exactly what is happening before your eyes. When whispers fail and conspiracies collapse, envy doesn't stop, it mutates. Tonight we look at the desperate lengths people will go when they run out of weapons and turn to shadows. You've seen this pattern before. At first, envy tries the easy weapons: gossip, rumors, sideways comments, meant to weaken your spirit. When those fail, it looks for allies, gathering circles of restless mouths. But when even a group can't touch you, envy gets reckless. It creeps into places darker than ordinary plotting. It knocks on the doors of rituals. It hides behind flames, blood, and symbols it doesn't understand. They don't do it because they're powerful. They do it because they're powerless. Imagine the scene: a dimly lit room, a few bitter souls gathered around a small table, candles flickering shadows on the walls, your name whispered into the air as though it's a spell. A photo of you pinned down, a lock of hair stolen from a brush, a piece of clothing folded like a trophy. They believe these objects hold the power to reach you. They chant, they stab at effigies, they pour wax, they whisper curses, and in their minds, they imagine you falling. But in reality, it's nothing more than children throwing stones at a mountain. The mountain doesn't move. Only the children bruise their own hands. This isn't just spiritual, it's psychological. Psychologists explain that when people feel completely powerless, they often resort to irrational or extreme behaviors in an attempt to feel in control. That's all these rituals really are: desperate people, clinging to the illusion of control, convinced that shadows can succeed where truth has failed. But shadows cannot harm what light has already claimed. Some take it further. In their obsession, they spill blood, animal sacrifices, strange offerings, even burning possessions in your name. They imagine these acts as transactions, thinking they're buying power. But here's the brutal truth: you can't bargain with darkness. Darkness doesn't serve, it consumes. The rituals they thought would weaken you chained them instead. The spirits they summoned didn't obey them, they mocked them. And now, those very forces stalk their homes, their sleep, their minds. They thought they were sending curses your way, but in reality, they tattooed their own souls with fear. They drink from the poison they brewed. While all of this was happening in secret rooms, what were you doing? You were moving forward. While they wasted nights calling shadows, you kept building. While they whispered curses, you kept shining. While they tried to chain you, you were walking free. That's the mystery haunting them now. They poured all their energy into breaking you, and yet, here you are, untouched, stronger, brighter, advancing further than ever. And let's not miss the deeper irony. If you weren't a threat, they wouldn't have gone this far. Think about it. Nobody wastes time chanting in the dark over someone irrelevant. Nobody sacrifices their sanity, their dignity, their health over someone who doesn't matter. The fact that they stoop to this level is the loudest confirmation of your significance. Their rituals were proof of your value. Their curses were evidence of your calling. Their obsession was the ultimate confession that your presence is too powerful to ignore. It's almost tragic when you think about it. They wanted to steal power, but in the process, they emptied themselves. They wanted to weaken your future, but only sabotaged their own. They wanted to curse your name, but ended up binding their own legacy. Because that's how darkness works, it never gives what it promises. The shadows they trusted have turned against them. Every curse they whispered has become an echo in their own homes. Every ritual they performed has etched scars into their own lives. And every sacrifice they offered has become a chain, dragging them deeper into despair. That's why you remain standing, untouched, while they tremble under the weight of forces they can no longer control. They thought they were burying you in darkness. Instead, they buried themselves. When envy burns itself out, desperation looks for sharper tools. That's when curses, rituals, and schemes reach their breaking point, because every arrow they fire bends midair and returns to the sender. This is where the mystery deepens. You didn't just survive their attempts, you thrived through them. The very energy meant to collapse you became the fuel that elevated you. Think of it like this: fire poured on ordinary seeds destroys. But some seeds, hidden deep in the earth, need fire to unlock life. That's you. The flames they thought would reduce you to ash only activated something dormant inside you. What they designed as destruction turned into ignition. Instead of smoldering in ruins, you sprouted higher. Instead of shrinking, you expanded. Instead of breaking, you were refined. That's why they can't explain it. How could attacks that should have ended you strengthen you? How could curses meant to silence you amplify your voice? Their confusion is proof of universal reversal, the law that says what is sent out must return. Science even echoes this truth. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Diamonds aren't formed without pressure. Resilience is carved by stress, not by ease. So every trial they threw against you was really training. Every assault a hidden exercise shaping your endurance. They sharpened what they could never dull. The more they pressed, the stronger you became. The more they cursed, the brighter you glowed. The more they opposed, the faster you rose. Picture them now, standing at a distance, watching the one they thought they'd buried still standing tall, radiant, untouchable. Their own mouths hang open because they can't deny what they see. The harder they fought you, the more unstoppable you became. And here's the irony: they supplied the very energy for your rise. Every insult was a brick in your foundation. Every scheme was a gust of wind filling your sails. Every curse was a step upward on the ladder they unknowingly built for you. The truth is simple. You didn't just dodge their blows, you transformed them. You took poison and turned it into medicine. You turned setbacks into strength. You converted attacks into acceleration. That's why they whisper questions in the dark. Why do they keep rising? Why do our weapons break in our hands? Because their hatred could never cancel your assignment. It could only confirm it. Their curses became your confirmation. Their envy became your elevation. Their attacks became your advertisement. And now the very energy they thought would suffocate you has revealed them powerless, while you stand unshaken. The more they wonder, the more restless they become, because deep down, they know the truth they'll never admit. Every attempt to destroy you was nothing more than fuel for your rise. And that's why tonight, their curses lie shattered, their schemes backfired, and their questions multiply with no answers in sight. You remain untouchable, not because they failed, but because you turned their failure into your foundation. When enemies step onto the battlefield convinced of their strength, the illusion shatters the moment their weapons fail. Confidence drains, fear rises, and the hunter becomes the hunted. That's the shift you've been witnessing. They approached you with arrogance, certain that their schemes, curses, and rituals would break you. They thought their arsenal was unstoppable. But one by one, every weapon snapped in their hands. Every strategy collapsed like a bridge made of paper. And instead of watching you fall, they watched you rise. That's when panic set in. Imagine an army charging a fortress, shouting with certainty, only to discover the walls are not stone but steel, reinforced by forces invisible to their eyes. Their swords bend, their shields shatter, their cries fade into confusion. That's what your enemies experienced. They believed you were vulnerable, but the closer they came, the more they realized you were surrounded by an authority beyond their reach. Fear always begins where illusions end, and the illusion they clung to was simple, that you were weak enough to touch. But panic does something strange. It doesn't just disarm enemies, it reveals their true desperation. When the ordinary fails, they crawl deeper into the shadows, searching for more dangerous help, trading dignity for promises of darker power. And yet, the very entities they begged for assistance recoiled at your presence. Some shattered the moment they touched your energy, like glass meeting a hammer. Others fled in terror, snarling as they disappeared. And then came the most brutal twist. Those forces turned on the summoners themselves. Payment was demanded, promises became chains. The very darkness they summoned devoured them. This is the turning point where enemies realize the truth. Their battle isn't with you anymore. It's with the consequences they unleashed. They thought they were hiring allies, but they were feeding executioners. And now, they lie restless, trembling not just from failure, but from the shadows clawing at their own souls. They set a trap, but they are the ones trapped. They built a cage, but locked themselves inside. Meanwhile, you walk untouched, shielded not just by protection, but by the collapse of their own design. Their questions haunt them now. Why did nothing land? Why does every attempt recoil? Why does fear grip us when we even think of their name? And the answer never comes, because your shield is not visible, your strength not explainable. The mystery itself terrifies them. They once thought you were prey. Now they pace their rooms at night, realizing they are the ones being hunted by fear, regret, and unseen forces they cannot control. The hunter has become the hunted. The predator has become the prey. Their fear is louder now than their schemes ever were, and their collapse is the testimony of your rise. Because at the end of every failed attempt, one truth remains. They couldn't touch you. They couldn't stop you. They couldn't even explain you. And that is what terrifies them most. Strangers can wound your body, but only family can stab straight into your soul. Betrayal always hurts, but when it comes from the ones who share your blood, the weight is unbearable. You expected loyalty from them. You expected protection, love, and support. Instead, envy slithered into your house like smoke, and someone bound by nature's law to defend you chose instead to trade loyalty for jealousy. That's why family betrayal cuts the deepest. It is not random, it is intimate. Picture this: a family table filled with laughter, stories, and memories. Across from you sits the one who has been watching you closely, smiling, nodding, playing their role so well you never suspected. But in the shadows, they've been taking notes. They know your struggles because they lived them with you. They know your secrets because you trusted them. And then, they use what they know against you. They timed their betrayal carefully, waiting for the moment your guard was lowest, whispering excuses to themselves. Why should they shine brighter? Why should they carry blessings I don't have? Resentment poisoned their heart until hurting you felt justified. And when the knife finally landed, it didn't just pierce your trust, it pierced the foundation of what you thought family meant. Here's the part they didn't calculate. Betrayal within bloodlines carries generational consequences. The moment they chose envy over love, they planted curses not just in their own life, but into their house, their children, their descendants. That's why peace escapes them. That's why finances slip through their hands. That's why sickness passes like a shadow through their walls. They broke more than trust. They broke alignment with universal law. Because betrayal isn't just an act against you, it's an act against the very order of protection. And now, look at the contrast. You survived what they thought would destroy you. You walked forward while their home began to collapse. You thrived while their decisions pulled them deeper into cycles they cannot escape. You didn't curse them, they cursed themselves. It's a sobering truth. Not every bond of blood is a bond of loyalty. Sometimes family is the camouflage of an enemy. Sometimes the last person you'd suspect is the very one who holds the knife. But betrayal, even by family, cannot touch what's within you. Think of it like this. They tried to trade your crown for their envy, but instead of stealing your inheritance, they forfeited their own. They reached for what was never theirs and lost everything in the process. That's the law of balance. You cannot rob destiny without robbing yourself. And now their nights are haunted with questions. Why are they still standing? Why does every attempt backfire? Why are we breaking down while they continue to rise? The answer will never bring them peace, because it requires admitting the truth they refuse to face. Betrayal didn't end you, it revealed them. They thought selling you out would silence you, but all they managed to do was silence themselves. And now you walk untouched, carrying the very blessing they tried to bury, while their lineage wrestles with the weight of their own choice. Betrayal by family may have been the sharpest knife, but it became the clearest proof that nothing can stop what you were meant to become. There comes a point when enemies have thrown everything: betrayal, conspiracies, curses, even family treachery, and still nothing works. That's when they reach for their last card, death itself. To them, it feels like the ultimate solution. If betrayal couldn't silence you, if rituals couldn't chain you, if envy couldn't break you, surely death will. They hire hands, summon assassins, plot scenarios where your story finally ends. But death doesn't always obey. Imagine this: a trained killer, hardened by years, approaches with eyes locked on the mission. The weapon is steady, the intent sharper than steel. This isn't the first time they've been sent, and by all logic, it shouldn't be the last. But something happens. The closer they step toward you, the heavier their body feels. The weapon trembles in their hands. Their heart beats like a drum betraying its rhythm. A sudden fear grips them, foreign and uncontrollable. It's as if unseen hands are pressing against their wrists, whispering, "Not this one, not today, not ever." The assassin came to deliver an ending, but instead carried back a testimony. That's what terrifies your enemies the most. They thought death was their guarantee, the one thing you couldn't escape. And yet, when they unleashed it, death itself refused its assignment. Even the darkest weapon trembled in the presence of your protection. This is the mystery they will never comprehend. You weren't just spared, you were shielded in a way that defies logic. It wasn't about luck, it wasn't about chance. It was about the authority covering your life, an authority stronger than their contracts, stronger than their rituals, stronger than death itself. And now, those who plotted sit restless. Because if death failed, what hope do they have? If the sharpest blade couldn't reach you, what weapon remains? The assassin, once confident, walked away shaken. And that story traveled back to the ears of your enemies like thunder. Their faces pale when they hear it, their confidence drains. Because deep down, they know, if death won't cross the line to touch you, then nothing else ever will. That's why they're whispering questions in the dark. How? Why? What force blocks even death itself? They'll never find the answer. They don't deserve to. The mystery is part of the protection. And so, the hunters became witnesses. Their own weapon became a testimony, and their last resort became their greatest humiliation. They once thought death would end your story. Instead, death itself became proof that your story has only just begun. When betrayal failed, when conspiracies collapsed, when even death refused its assignment, your enemies reached for something more sinister. If they couldn't destroy you, they would try to erase your claim. This wasn't about sabotage anymore, it was about theft. They weren't satisfied with attacking you. They wanted to strip you of what was rightfully yours, the inheritance reserved for your name, the destiny signed by law higher than theirs. Inheritance isn't only money or property. It's everything the universe preserved with your name on it. Opportunities, blessings, authority, and legacy. That was their new target. They whispered lies in offices. They scribbled signatures on fraudulent papers. They bribed officials, manipulated systems, and even plotted to declare you unworthy of your own destiny. Their logic was twisted but clear. If we can't break them, let's take what belongs to them. Let's erase their crown before the world sees it shine. Imagine a thief creeping into a vault at night, convinced they've outsmarted the system. Their hands stretch toward the treasure, greed dripping from their fingertips. But the moment they touch the gold, alarms explode, floodlights blind their eyes, and doors slam shut behind them. That's exactly what happened. They thought they were stealing from you, but they locked themselves in a prison built by their own greed. Because destiny isn't paper, it isn't ink, it isn't signatures forged in the dark. Destiny is sealed in a realm beyond their reach, and no fraud can overwrite it. Their schemes might look convincing for a moment. For a season, it might even seem like they succeeded. But lies don't last long in the light. What they stole crumbles in their hands like ash. What they plotted flips back into your favor, and every attempt they made only strengthens the proof that your inheritance was never up for negotiation. Here's the irony they can't escape. While they tried to erase your name only grew louder. While they tried to cut you off from blessings, the blessings multiplied. The very documents they forged became evidence against them. The very lies they spread became the reason truth had to be revealed. In trying to rob you, they exposed themselves. And now they sit with empty hands. Their resources wasted, their credibility shattered, their alliances broken, all because they tried to take what the universe refused to release into their possession. You didn't even have to fight them in their own game. The law of balance fought for you. Think of it like this. They stretched out their hands to steal your crown. But crowns don't bend. Crowns don't break. The harder they pulled, the heavier it became, until they dropped it in defeat. And now, instead of wearing your crown, they're bowing beneath it. That's why their nights are restless, because they know the truth. Your inheritance is untouchable. It was written long before their schemes. It was sealed before their lies, and it was guarded by hands far stronger than theirs. They thought they could rob you of your legacy. Instead, they robbed themselves of peace, stability, and future. What they never understood is this: inheritance isn't something you chase. It's something that meets you. It waits for you in time, in alignment, in the rhythm of destiny. And when it arrives, no thief can intercept it. Their theft failed not because you fought harder, but because it was never theirs to take. So now they tremble, left with nothing but regret. Their hands are empty, their futures fractured, while you walk forward carrying everything they thought they could strip away. Their downfall became the testimony of your protection. Because when thieves try to rob destiny, they don't just lose the battle, they lose everything. There comes a moment when enemies realize the truth isn't just painful, it's unbearable. They can't swallow it, they can't digest it, and no matter how hard they try, it chokes them at every turn. The truth is simple: you were never within their reach. For so long, they believed you were prey they could corner, a target they could surround, a name they could erase. They spent sleepless nights whispering strategies, building traps, throwing curses like stones at the sky. But what did they discover? The sky doesn't flinch when stones are thrown. Their rage, their envy, their rituals, all of it was energy wasted because you were never on their level to begin with. Picture this: storms raging across the sea, waves crashing, ships breaking, winds screaming. And in the distance, a lighthouse stands tall, unmoved, shining light through the chaos. The ships sink, the waves roar, but the lighthouse doesn't budge. That's you. Their storms were loud, but they could never touch your foundation. They wanted to shake you, but only shook themselves. This is why their fear grows. Humans hate what they cannot explain, and your survival defies their calculations. You weren't supposed to make it this far. You weren't supposed to keep rising. Every attack should have finished you, but instead, each one only became proof that you carry something they'll never possess. And when people can't explain resilience, they invent myths. That's exactly what your enemies are doing now. They whisper stories about you, exaggerate your mystery, and feed their own fear until it becomes its own shield around your life. Their fear is your protection. Think about this irony. They wanted to cage you with lies, but ended up caging themselves with questions. Every time your name is spoken, it unsettles them. Every time they hear about your success, their stomachs twist. Every time they see you untouched, they're reminded that no weapon they own can break you. Their fear has become your armor. You don't have to respond. You don't have to prove anything. Their inability to swallow the truth is proof enough. You live at a frequency they cannot comprehend, and that gap terrifies them more than any battle ever could. They will keep asking, why do we fail every time? What shields this person? Why do our plans collapse the moment we act? But the answers will never come, because mystery itself is part of your protection. And that is why the truth sits in their throats like poison they cannot spit out. It chokes them in silence, eats at them in private, and crushes them every time they remember you still stand. The truth they can't swallow is the same truth that frees you. You were never theirs to defeat, never theirs to contain, never theirs to destroy. That's why, even now, they sit restless, confused, and broken, while you keep walking forward into a future they will only watch from a distance. Poison is strange. The one who pours it always believes they'll watch another suffer, never realizing they're the ones holding the cup the longest. That's exactly what happened with your enemies. Every curse they spat, every ritual they whispered, every shadow they stirred was meant for you. But the universe has a way of flipping the script. Poison never stays where it's poured. It drips back into the veins of the one who brewed it. Imagine a venomous snake lunging for its prey, fangs bared, but in its rage, it miscalculates and sinks its teeth into its own flesh. The venom doesn't touch the prey, it spreads through the predator. That's your enemies. They thought their rage would weaken you. Instead, it infected their own lives. Now they're restless, exhausted, breaking down. Their health falters, their peace vanishes, their relationships unravel. Doctors shake their heads at symptoms with no clear explanation. Doors they thought would open stay closed. Finances slip through their fingers like sand. And still, they don't connect the dots. The downfall started when they came against you. Because darkness always boomerangs. It doesn't disappear, it circles back. and what they poured into the world with your name attached came storming back with theirs. That's why their laughter has turned into sleepless nights. That's why the confidence they once carried has soured into confusion. That's why their bodies ache with the stress they planted. Science proves it. Envy and rage flood the body with toxins, weaken immunity, accelerate decay. They were drinking their own poison all along. But here's the irony: they thought they were cursing your bloodline, plotting to suffocate your future. Instead, their own children inherit the consequences. The shadows they begged for power cling like parasites to their homes, whispering in ears that never asked for such torment. Their lineage pays the debt they tried to place on yours. Meanwhile, your bloodline is blessed. The very energy they weaponized against you fertilized your legacy. Dormant gifts in your family awaken. Strength rises in generations you haven't even seen yet. Where they expected collapse, the universe planted growth. Where they wanted decay, legacy was born. This is why they tremble when your name comes up, not because you struck them, but because they struck themselves. The poison they meant for you has made a home in their own hearts. And the more they resist admitting it, the deeper it eats away at them. You, on the other hand, remain untouchable, because the law of balance never misses. And so the final truth stands. Their poison became their cup, their curse became their inheritance, and their downfall became your testimony. While they crumble under the weight of their own actions, you rise higher, untouched, unstoppable, and undeniable. They tried to write your ending, but what they created instead was the first chapter of your legend. That's the power of survival. It doesn't just belong to you. It becomes a story others can't stop repeating. Word of your endurance traveled far beyond the circle of those who plotted. It slipped through their walls, crossed into rooms they never wanted it to reach, and landed in the mouths of witnesses who now tell your story for them. Picture this: a village gathered around a fire at night. The flames dance while elders tell stories of a warrior who could not be defeated, who turned every strike into strength. Children sit wide-eyed, inspired by the thought that survival is possible even against impossible odds. That's you. You became that story in real time. The very people who wanted to watch you collapse must now live with the humiliation of seeing your name become a beacon. You're no longer just surviving, you're inspiring. And here's the irony: the more they tried to bury you, the higher your story rose. The more they tried to silence you, the louder your testimony became. The more they tried to erase your name, the more your name spread across places they never imagined. Because legends aren't born in comfort, they're forged in battle. Your betrayals, conspiracies, curses, and near-death encounters became the fire that sculpted you. Instead of branding you as broken, they branded you into history. Now, your life stands as proof to others who once thought they couldn't endure that protection is real, that curses can flip into blessings, that no enemy can bury what the universe has raised. Your survival has become a map for others, a story that whispers, if they made it through, maybe I can too. And here's the practical truth: opportunity flows to those whose stories inspire. That's why new doors keep opening in your life, why wealth shifts toward you, why influence expands without you begging for it. Because the universe itself arranges for those who endured the fire to carry the rewards. The curses became your currency, the attacks became your advertisements, the hatred became the soil where your victories bloomed. They wanted you forgotten. Instead, you became unforgettable. They wanted you erased. Instead, you became eternal in memory. They wanted you hidden. Instead, you became a light that cannot be ignored. That's the agony they now live with. Every time your name is mentioned, it reminds them that their failure was your foundation. Every time your story spreads, it confirms that they couldn't stop what was already destined to rise. Their plan created your legend. And so, what began as survival has turned into legacy. You didn't just walk away alive, you walked into a narrative that will outlive their envy, their lies, their rituals, and their schemes. They fought to erase you, but all they did was etch you deeper into the world's memory. Your enemies lost more than the battle. They lost their ability to silence the story that now carries your name far beyond their reach. And that story, chosen one, is still being written. Every war eventually burns itself out, and when the dust settles, the battlefield tells the truth clearer than any rumor or scheme ever could. Look around now, who's still standing? It's not the ones who plotted. It's not the ones who whispered. It's not the ones who drew knives in secret. It's you. From the very beginning, each attack was meant to erase you. Betrayal was supposed to weaken you. Conspiracy was supposed to surround you. Curses were supposed to collapse you. Even death itself was supposed to claim you. Yet here you are, breathing, moving, rising higher. Their attempts didn't destroy you, they revealed them. Imagine a chessboard mid-game. Your enemies, convinced of their strategy, move piece after piece, eager for checkmate. But with each move, their own defenses weaken. One by one, their pawns fall, their knights stumble, their queens lose power, until finally, the board clears, and they realize they sacrificed themselves in their own obsession. That's the story of their downfall. They weren't beaten by your hand, they were consumed by their own. Their envy rotted them from the inside. Their lies collapsed under their own weight. Their alliances turned fragile and fractured, and their rituals backfired with precision, leaving scars they can't heal. Meanwhile, every wound they thought they inflicted on you only sharpened your vision, toughened your spirit, and cleared your path. That's the lesson they'll never understand. Storms don't last forever, but those who endure outlive them. You became the proof. History has always favored the resilient, the ones who stand longer than the storm. The battle didn't leave you broken, it crowned you with endurance. Now, the field is quiet. The noise of their laughter has vanished. The strength of their alliances has dissolved. The curses they cast have turned into chains binding their own feet. The smoke of their plots has cleared, and in that silence, one figure remains. You, stronger, sharper, untouchable. Their obsession with destroying you was their undoing. They wasted energy, time, and life itself trying to erase what the universe had sealed. And in the end, they didn't just lose, you inherited the very ground they tried to take from you. Think about this. Every betrayal cleared a snake from your circle. Every attack revealed a hidden enemy. Every conspiracy unmasked a coward. Every curse redirected back to its sender. What they thought would bury you only purified your path. And now the path is brighter than ever before. The war is finished. The battlefield is silent. And the only figure left rising from the ashes is you. Not because you fought harder, not because you shouted louder, but because you were chosen to withstand everything they could not. Your existence itself is the loudest victory song. When a storm dies, its destruction doesn't vanish, it leaves traces behind. The broken branches, the flooded fields, the houses stripped bare. That's what your enemies live with now, the aftermath of their own choices. They thought the war would end with you ruined. Instead, the war ended with their lives fractured, their alliances shattered, and their names stained. And here's the part they can't escape. The consequences don't just fade, they echo. Every scheme they built left a mark on them. Every curse they sent carved lines in their own story. Every betrayal planted seeds that grew weeds in their bloodline. The destruction they designed for you became the inheritance they passed to themselves. Meanwhile, your survival became the soil for abundance. Picture it like this. Two farmers set out to sow fields. One sows bitterness, envy, and rage. The other, despite wounds, keeps sowing resilience, light, and truth. Seasons pass. The first farmer stares at barren ground, nothing but thorns and rot. The second sees fields stretching with harvest, more than enough, multiplying each year. That's you. Their envy left them empty, while your endurance became a legacy of abundance. And here's the truth that stings them most. Survival isn't just about staying alive. Survival transforms into testimony. Testimony becomes influence. Influence becomes legacy. And legacy builds abundance that stretches further than they ever imagined. That's why opportunities flow toward you now. That's why doors open that they tried to nail shut. That's why resources appear in your path, seemingly out of nowhere. The universe remembers what you endured, and it pays in multiplication. They tried to strip you of inheritance. Instead, your inheritance expanded. They tried to block your path. Instead, new paths appeared. They tried to bury your name. Instead, your name travels further, echoing into places they can't even reach. That's the cruel irony they live with. Their downfall became your abundance. And now, your enemies sit restless, watching from a distance, holding their heads in disbelief. They whisper, "How are they thriving when we left them with nothing? How are they rising when we threw everything at them? How is abundance flowing to their hands while ours slip empty?" The answer will never comfort them, because the truth is, this what you carry cannot be stolen, cannot be forged, and cannot be blocked. It multiplies in the face of opposition. Your survival became the seed, their downfall became the fertilizer, and your abundance became the harvest. That's why you stand now, not just with victory, but with legacy. You're walking proof that resilience pays interest, and faith always collects its debt. And as they crumble under the ruins of their own making, you rise surrounded by more than survival. You rise surrounded by abundance that cannot be denied. Destiny has a way of silencing debate. People can argue about your character, they can question your choices, they can even plot against your progress, but when destiny unfolds, all noise goes quiet. That's what's happening now. Your survival turned into a legend, your legend birthed abundance, and now abundance is solidifying into destiny. Not a dream, not a possibility. A reality that can't be undone. Your enemies thought you were fragile clay in their hands. They thought they could mold your story, bend your path, even shatter your future. But clay was never the right image for you. You were stone, carved by forces greater than them, and every strike only refined the edges, sharpened the design, and revealed the purpose hidden beneath the surface. Destiny doesn't crumble under pressure, it reveals itself. Think of a crown, heavy, unyielding, not made for every head. They tried to snatch it from you, but every time they reached, it slipped from their grasp. Not because you held tighter, but because it wasn't shaped for them. Crowns only rest on the heads they're designed for. Yours was sealed to your name. This is why their confusion deepens. They wanted to watch you sink. Instead, they're watching you reign. They wanted to see you erased. Instead, you're etched deeper into the world's memory. They wanted to scatter your influence. Instead, your influence gathers strength across places they never imagined. Destiny always arrives louder than doubt. Now imagine this, a stage prepared long before you arrived, curtains drawn, lights waiting. Your enemies thought they could lock the doors and keep you outside. But when the appointed moment came, the doors swung open, the curtains lifted, and your name echoed through the room. They were forced to sit in the audience, watching you step into the spotlight they tried to steal. That's destiny. Not delayed, not denied, just waiting for the right moment to unfold. Here's the reality they can't live with. They don't get to write your ending. They never did. And now, they watch as the very story they tried to interrupt becomes the script of your elevation. Their downfall is background noise. Your rise is the main scene. And while they keep asking, how, why, what force protects this person, the answer will never reach them, because destiny doesn't explain itself. It simply manifests. And now that it has, no enemy, no betrayal, no curse, no scheme can stop what has already begun. This is the part of your story that changes everything. Survival was proof, abundance was the reward, but destiny is the crown, and once placed on your head, it cannot be removed. Victory isn't loud at first. It begins quietly like a seed breaking through the soil, unnoticed. But eventually, it rises so tall that even those who once mocked it must look up in awe. That's where you stand now. This isn't just survival. It isn't even just abundance. This is victory sealed so firmly that no rumor, no curse, no scheme can erase it. The war that once defined your nights is over. The battlefield has gone silent. And in that silence, your crown gleams brighter than ever. Your enemies tried every weapon, every shadow, every betrayal, and still you remained. Still you rose. Still you carried on with strength they could never calculate. What was meant to destroy you has only confirmed that you were chosen to win. And here's the cruel truth they now face. Their obsession wrote your testimony. Their plotting created your platform. Their failure became your foundation. They spent sleepless nights imagining your downfall, only to awaken each day to the sound of your victory growing louder. Picture this. Once, they celebrated, convinced they'd buried you, but time exposed their laughter as hollow. Now, they hide their faces, covering wounds they inflicted on themselves, while you walk forward radiant, unshaken, and unstoppable. Their curses became your shield. Their envy became your confirmation. Their poison became your harvest. This is the ending they never saw coming. Your existence has become their unanswered question. And now, your story stands not just for you, but for those who will come after you. Your endurance became their inspiration. Your resilience became their hope. Your victory became their roadmap. Because victory, at this level, is never personal, it's generational. So here you are, crowned not just by destiny but by proof. Proof that betrayal cannot stop what is chosen. Proof that darkness cannot dim what is lit. Proof that even death itself bows before the mission stamped on your life. Your enemies are gone, their voices silenced, their questions unanswered, and you stand tall, wrapped in a victory that cannot be denied. And as we close this journey, remember, the greatest shield is the one you never see, the one that terrifies your enemies the most, the one that proves you were always untouchable. Walk in peace, walk in strength, and walk knowing that your victory is already written, forever sealed, and untouchable by any hand that rises against you.